All right, man. I think we've gotten everything from top to bottom. One more question, guys. You don't have to give me a prediction. More of what are your expectations for this Miami versus Clemson game? Obviously, I'm feeling better about the game. The last couple times we faced Clemson, we've got ran out of the gym. I haven't even watched Clemson this year. I'm gonna go back and watch the Wake Forest game, and I think they play Virginia this year. But we know they got talent. I've already heard about their D line. They got a couple freshman dogs on that D line, in Brian Brzee and Miles Murphy. But I want to do my due diligence and watch them before I give a full prediction. But what are you guys? What are your expectations for the game, and what would satisfy you for the game?
It's I don't want to, especially this early, talk about like moral victories when we're not even like into it. Especially not even into game week. I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a major problem for us because he runs the ball surprisingly well. He's got this arm that is he could put it in the end zone on the fly from his own 40 without even thinking about it. And having Amari Carter back there without having Gervin Hall is already going to put us at a disadvantage. We like to run our corners man, and if we're not being physical with those Clemson guys, they could run right by us. That's another thing to be worried about. And then at the end, at running back, it's going to be a whole nother level of speed to kind of account for from our second level. So there's a lot to think about with even just the Clemson offense. I think we're going to need to score, and I think we will. I think as good as Venables is, I think we'll be able to figure out ways of scoring. We just have to keep them under like a number that isn't absurd. Like we got to if we can keep them under 35, if we can keep them in that range, we have a shot. If they're putting up 40 plus, it's going to be hard for us, the offense, to have to keep responding, which they've done so far. But it's hard to keep up with a team like that.
Yeah, Clemson's on another level. You can tell by their recruiting, how they've looked so far this year. They've dominated every opponent, from the get-go. They have a generational quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, who doesn't miss often. He's going to pose a real problem, for our secondary. Travis Etienne at running back is explosive. If he gets, a crease, he's gone. So Blake Baker, Manny Diaz are really going to have to come up with something special to try and at least slow that offense down. But on the optimistic side, I think Lashley and King are going to give us a puncher's chance in this one. That combination of those two, they can do special things. King's athleticism, even if the wrong play is called or a play breaks down, he can still move the chains or create a big play out of nothing. So I think we'll see that, and that'll allow us to at least kind of stay in the game. But I think Clemson's going to be way too much for us to handle. I'm not a big fan of moral victories either. But I think if we can be competitive into the fourth quarter, keep it within, a 2-possession type game, that'll really build our confidence and show that we're almost there. We're almost there. Not quite. We still need to have some work to do recruiting. But if we can keep it within, 10, 14 points, I think that's a good thing for us going forward.
I know on that point too, like you said about planning the defense, like what if we just went into this game like full on Manny does the whole thing. Manny calls defense front to back, not as a shot.
They don't want to see that.
They
don't want to
just
see
to give
Manny as
something.
he could.
Just give them something different than what. So like all the tape they've studied this year, they have to go. They really would have to prepare for that 2017 defense, and that 2017 defense had caused a lot of problems. So maybe just send Manny out there full go as the coordinator and see what he could do.
Do you guys see us getting blown out?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think we could score, and even if our scores are going to be these drives where maybe they're not, like maybe we're down by 2 touchdowns, we get a field goal, they get a field goal, we score a touchdown, maybe we're not like within striking distance. I don't think we're going to get blown out. I think this offense is too good and Lashley's too smart to be held down for an entire game.
Agreed. It's possible. Clemson's that good of a team, but Lashley, King, they'll score points. They'll keep us in it. If the defense can get stops or even kind of implement that bend but don't break, give up a field goal instead of a touchdown, and just kind of keep shortening the game, into the latter parts of the fourth quarter. we'll have a chance. But again, this team's number one for a reason. They have really good football players. So it's going to be a tough one for us.
I'll say a couple early things that I'm looking at is just a couple. Like I have this philosophy, what King is an X factor. So I know we're going up against Brett Venables, but the thing about it is Brett can call the perfect play, but with King's ability to scramble and to show his ability to throw, he has that X factor to where you can call the right play and it still not get executed properly because King can beat that. I think that's something that Miami fans should be excited about. I'm thinking I don't see anybody stopping our run game because once again, if you hold the ball out, you've got to choose either Cameron Harris, who's one of the top running backs in the nation to start the season off, or De'Aaron King, who can take it out. So if you got a running game and like you said, you can score, that's going to be big. Another thing is I'm wondering how the atmosphere will be because, Clemson, they're known for Death Valley, right? But if there's not going to be a lot of fans there or if they don't allow fans, then I don't think Death Valley has the same atmosphere, which in turn helps us out.
Yeah, for sure. That's a factor too. Is maybe we got used to playing in a building like everyone made the joke about Miami's playing like in front of the normal crowd with all the limitations and all, but we know what it's like to play in front of a relatively sparse crowd. Maybe Clemson doesn't. Maybe that little bit of extra energy that they would get from Death Valley, they're still this dominant force of nature team, but just a little bit, just any little thing we could take as a possible way of getting by, I think it's a positive to look for and gives us another 1/2 percentage point more of a shot. And, I'll take it.
Yeah, that it wouldn't surprise me to see Clemson have more fans than they normally would, just as COVID restrictions are easing, around the country. And I'm assuming this is going to be a primetime ABC game, with game day there. So even though it may not be a full stadium, I think it's still going to be an electric atmosphere. But even that could feed into our players. That can get them all jacked up, excited. They should come out with a chip on their shoulder against Clemson, who, is this kind of dominant force, the last 4 or 5 years. So we have a lot to shoot for. But at the end of the day, they're a talented team, and we're going to have to bring our A++ game to pull it out.
Yeah, and this is a team, this is a program that was built on knocking off number one teams. We did it late 70s all through the 80s. And I think it was 8-0 against number one teams through the course of the 80s. Like that's a crazy number, but that's how we built the program, beating these teams you weren't supposed to beat, and kind of forcing our way into the conversation. So, I mean, what the heck? We start another tradition now. We knock Clemson off.
The opportunity will be there to make a statement.
Hey, man. Hey, third straight primetime game. We're assuming it's going to be the third one. We got a week to prepare. So I'm excited, man. But, hey, biggest thing is Canes fans 3-0. We beat our rivalry, beat them down, destroyed them, and I'm feeling good, man. What do you guys got going on with Canes Legacy and Canes Insight to get ready for this big-time game? I've already seen y'all post a lot of information about what happened last night, so tell the people about what y'all got going on.
Well, we'll definitely make fun of Florida State for a couple more days because, with going into the bye week gives a little bit more time just to mock how terrible they were this past weekend. So we're going to look forward to that for sure. But like going into the Clemson game, we're, looking back at all these games against number one teams that I just mentioned before, like that's something we definitely want to do because, not every one of them was, number one versus number 3 Miami. Some of them we were a little bit more lowly ranked and, surprised some people. So, giving some insight on that, because it's easy to assume that Miami was always, the favorite in these contests, but it really wasn't true. So going back and reminding people that we have shocked the world on occasion and we have gone into other buildings and done some significant damage. So we want to make sure that everybody remembers that, this is a program that can do some crazy things, when people are betting against us. So we'll put some of those out there for sure before we get to next week.
Yeah, we're going to take a hard look at Clemson too, since we do have a bye week this week and they're playing Virginia, who hopefully we'll at least challenge them a little bit, so that we can kind of see what Clemson's going to do when they're not up 32 to nothing after a couple minutes into the game. But we'll look to see what we can do to beat them. Any weaknesses that Miami could potentially exploit, and then we'll get ready for the biggest game of the year.